The tragic school shooting in Texas recently had some predictable steps that would follow it. And unfortunately, we just saw another one. We now know what a Hollywood celebrity thinks about it. Let's talk about it right after this. Welcome to another edition of the Marty Chronicles on the Conservative Take platform. I'm Marty Nailitz. Thanks as always for joining us here. As I said a minute ago, we now have had another Hollywood celebrity show us his backside, as the saying goes, when it comes to the shooting, the tragic shooting a few weeks ago. Matthew McConaughey has made it a point to jump in on this, and there are some things that really need to be said. Number one, I don't really care what any celebrities, even those, there are certain celebrities that I really care what they think. Kelsey Grammer, James Woods, Jon Voight, Chuck Norris, and a few others. However, if it was, depending on the issue, if I thought they were wrong, I would go on with my life, and it wouldn't mean anything to me. I don't know why, but liberal actors and actresses, they seem to think it's different, that you'll accept what they say as gospel. So anyway, Matthew McConaughey has jumped in on this, and you should have seen it coming. There was last year, maybe the year before even, I saw him on a podcast paying homage to Dr. Fauci over COVID. I just remember when I saw it, he was wearing these bizarre green rimmed glasses, and it looked like he stole them off my Aunt Betty. I don't know why these guys think I don't know if they think it makes them look more intellectual or what. But what he was saying with regards to COVID and Fauci, you should have known where this was heading. Then, of course, there was the talk about, I think it's time for me to run for office, just so I can give back. Oh, and I'm not sure what party I would run in, of course. So now the White House brings him in to talk about this shooting. The link, I'm told, is that it's the city he says he was born in. I'm not doubting it. I know some people are doubting it. I'm not doubting it. I don't really care enough to check. But that's supposed to be the link, that he was born in that city. And of course, he's coming out repeating the same tired, trite, wrong statements that Big Joe comes out with. The AR-15 will blow your lung out. Come on. Stuff like that. But what's really even more concerning is his adoption and promotion of red flag laws. And there's a real irony here. I don't know if you remember this or not. About 20 years ago, Matthew McConaughey was arrested in his home. He was, by his own admission, drunk and had been smoking weed for a day and a half. And he was playing bongos in his house naked. Goofy story, I know. A couple of cops in Austin, Texas show up. He gets accused of resisting arrest. And if you read his account of it, he seems to brag about it, that he was, in fact, resisting arrest. Of course, nothing happened to him. But here's my point. Under red flag laws, that could and might have been held against him to this very day. If you're going to get drunk and high and run around naked, you should do it at home. So I'm not convinced, honestly, that he did anything wrong. The other thing is, they originally went to him on a disturbing the peace. Well, if he's in his own home, I don't know if it's a townhouse, a condo, or a standalone home. I don't know who complained, who called the police. But my point is, there really shouldn't be any law against being drunk in your own home. There really shouldn't. And if you're going to get drunk, you're going to get high, it's a good place to do it at home. So Matthew McConaughey has this in his background. And I don't know that he truly understands what red flag laws are, because that incident could be used against him by a disgruntled employee, a mad ex-wife, ex-girlfriend, whoever. That is the type of thing that's one of the dangers behind red flag laws. Again, if you can't be drunk at home, where could you be drunk at? So Matthew McConaughey, I don't think, has given any thought to what red flag laws are, or he doesn't understand them. Because with an instance like that, he's the guy who should be saying, no, this is a bad idea. I can attest to this firsthand. But for some reason, Hollywood, or liberal Hollywood anyway, feels compelled to carry administration's water in cases like this. And I do think, this is Texas, I think it's going to backfire. No pun intended. I think they're going to find this was a bad idea because the people in Texas, and even in that particular area, I think their biggest issue was, why didn't we have more guns? I have had a gun aimed at me in anger twice in my life. Just a little admission here. First time I was a kid, and it was during a big brawl. The second time, it was during a robbery at a business that I owned, and coincidentally, it was in a part of Denver that was one of the first to put in gun-free zones. So it was in a gun-free zone. I ended up with a gun almost touching my nose with someone pointing it at me. And when that happened, you know what the last thought I had? Fortunately, he didn't shoot, obviously. But the last thought I had before that all broke up was, I am going to die because I stupidly left my firearm in my car. Why did I do that? And I never did it again. I never went in there without it again. You're a fool if you walk around in these places today unarmed. I'm sorry it has to be that way. It didn't used to have to be that way in America. You know, if you ever watch old TV shows, Leave It to Beaver. I don't really get into Leave It to Beaver that much. The first few years were really kind of lousy. But what's always amazing to me is you see these people walking up and down the street, all dressed up. The men are wearing hats, women are wearing gloves, and everything is so civilized. You see these shows or movies from that time where people go out to dinner and dancing. Everything was so civilized. Everything. And ironically, at that point, almost everyone in America was armed. Remember, we had just come out of a war. It was very common. It was really would have been uncommon for someone to not have a firearm in their home at that time. Where I grew up, it was very common for two grown-ups to get into a fight over whatever. You know, it was usually something stupid. But it wasn't too unusual to see two dads throwing hands at each other. And usually they got over it. Everyone went on with their business. No one ever went and got a gun, although almost everyone owned guns. It was a more civilized time. America is not civilized anymore. That's a whole other issue, where that has to start and where that has to end. But in the meantime, you're a fool if you give ground on anything with regards to the Second Amendment right now. Look at Australia. 10 years ago, they lined up to give their firearms away, and look what happened to them during COVID. Canada's next. You're a fool if you do that. Do not give any ground on Second Amendment issues. None. About 20 years ago, there was a big debate in America on homosexual marriage. At the time, believe it or not, it was considered pretty outlandish. And of course, people kept pushing and pushing and pushing. Some of us that didn't give in on it said, this is the beginning. This isn't the end. And the people that argued for it would say, oh, no, this is all we want. And some of us said, no, it's not. This is just the beginning. So that battle was lost, or for all intents and purposes. Today, the battle is we're going to take your kids to drag queen shows. We're going to give them hormone blockers, and we're not even going to tell you about it. That's where the debate is today. And if you don't think the debate can go the same way on the Second Amendment, you're foolish. I'm sorry. I'm going to leave it right there for now. Thanks as always for joining us on the Conservative Take platform.